Alright, welcome back. So in this video, we are going to see an example of a placeholder, of an API. And we're not going to build something really exciting, right? We're just going to see the usage of an API from scratch, right? I've searched an API. Normally, when you are searching an API, you would see your requirement, you would search the web, and you would get the API easily, right? So I've already got the API. That step is already done. We're going to do everything after that. We're going to see how we get the link. We're going to see how you can actually make requests and you can use those requests in actual life. In the previous video, we just printed that out, but this time we're going to actually use it, right? So I'll switch to my Goon, and inside here I will move into my APIs directory, right? And here I'll do cd APIs. I'll do ls. I have this, right? So I'll just change app.js in here, right? If you remember from the last video, this is what we had, right? And I'm going to remove all of this. I'm going to let this remain like this. Excellent. So now I have a simple setup file which has request imported and express imported. And this is basically the API that we are going to use, which is known as JSON placeholder. And it is not, that useful of an API, because most of the useful APIs actually are a little complex, that we'll see, like some of them and not all of them, but you can't just think of simple API whenever you want to, right? So I just took the simple API. In that, you can just get fake random data, which you can use as a placeholder, right? If I click on try it, this code is run and I get a fake user, fake to-do list, to-do item, because this is slash to-dos, which has a user ID of and blah blah blah. I get a JSON object. And this syntax is a little different than what we're using right now. We are using callbacks. Then is basically the ES6 thing. I'll tell you this later, but for now we're just gonna make this work, right? So basically, whenever you are using any API, it will be like using any library. A little simpler, of course, but whenever you are using a library or a framework, the first thing that you do is you read the documentation, right? Whenever you read the documentation, you just refer to it. Similarly, whenever you want an API, you will first see its intro and demo, and that will give you the complete idea of how it is actually used. Here we can see that this is their actual URL, right? jsonplaceholder.typicode.com, which they have up here too. So this is our main URL, which we will be using in our API. Basically, the syntax, you do not recognize the syntax, but what they are doing here is they are requesting the response from this, and then they are printing that out to the console, right? You can think of this like that. Then you'll do, so this remains common, right? And after this, what do we put? You can simply see from the routes they have put down here and the resources that they've put down here. And this is actually all it is. If you do slash posts, you will get 100 posts, right? So let's just try that out. I'll copy this. I'll go here. I'll do request slash, and then I'll do posts, because we saw that posts was there. Then I'll do here response and body. Right, and now the next thing that we'll do is we'll do if error console.log error, and then we'll do if response.status code triple equals 200. Then we'll start doing our things, right? And first off, let's just do console.log body, and let's see what happens. So I'll run this, and listening on port 3000, excellent. I'll get my URL. I'll open that up. Oh, I didn't have to console.log this. I had to do res.send. Of course, there's no response there because we haven't given any response. And you see that, just notice once that when this page just loads, it is like a really, really weird JSON document. And that's why I told you to install this extension known as JSON view, right? If you haven't done that till now, you will be getting something like the weird thing, right? So first install this extension so that we can have a better look at this, right? So once you have, you can see that this is an opening bracket for an array. So basically we have got an array back, which has a lot of objects, right? This is an object, this is an object. All of them are different objects which have 4 fields: user ID, title, and body, right? So yeah, so first let's just print out body 0. And there's a way of doing that too, but I'll just do that simply. And yeah, you see that this does not work. And the reason that this does not work is that when we get body back, right, we actually get a string. And that is why you can just do, if you do body 0, you will get just this single square bracket, because this is the first element in the string that is returned as the body. So how do we actually use it as a JSON object? So for that, we'll have to do something which is known as json.parse. So JSON is a pre-imported library in Express. You don't need to require it separately if you have already required Express, right? So then you need to do json.parse, meaning that you will pass in a string in here which will be changed to JSON. If it is of the JSON format, then it will be changed to JSON, right, from a string. So what we can do is body, and we can get it in a variable named pass data const, right? So now if I here, first of all, I'll just print out const, and you'll not notice a difference. Oh, I need to, sorry, pass data. And if I refresh, I see I'm still getting the same thing. And that is basically because they look the same, but this essentially is a proper JSON formatted, and that just looked like JSON, but that was actually a string, right? If you put quotes around all of this, then this becomes a string, right? But still the format will remain the same. And that's why this extension 2 was putting it in a pretty format, but now it is actually JSON. And what we can do is we can do pass data 0. And if I refresh, the server hadn't started yet. So the first element of the thing is returned. Although this was like really easy by doing /1. Yeah. Not there. I'll do /1 in here. So this will give us the first element, and that won't be a problem. You can see I'm getting the first element even though I've removed the 0 indexing, because only 1 is returned if we are calling to /1. And that too I got to know from this. Like you can see /post/post/1. And if you click on this, it will tell you what you're going to get, right? So yeah, so we've basically sent some requests. Now let's do something more interesting. I'll let it remain /posts, and rather than doing this, right, I'll do alright, so I'll do pass data dot for each. Now we know that's a array, right? So I'll do for each, and then I'll make a function. I'll get the item in here, and I'll do item dot title, right? So we'll print all the titles to the console, right? And then we'll do res.send check your console. Excellent. So now if I refresh, it isn't made yet. Yeah, it says check your console. And if I go to my console, I've got my first 100 titles, right? So this was just to show you how the processing can help, right? In this case, we are logging it to the console, but this is actually because we are doing it in the same document. Imagine like having a res.render here, and you are passing this pass data array into your EJS file. Then what you could do is you could make this for each inside the EJS file, and you could make an H1 for all of the titles, right? Let's just do that once. I'll first of all I'll quit the server. I'll make a new file, right? And then I'll open that up. Alright, so now the next thing that I need to do is I do not need this for loop. And in here I need to do res.render. And even before that I need to do npmi -s EJS, right? And so this will install EJS for me, and meanwhile I can add the line that EJS needs in here. So we do app.use app.set view engine EJS, right? And then I'll do res.render. If you are not aware of the syntax, then I recommend that you revisit the old video where we introduced EJS, right? Because this actually requires some explaining. So I'll do res.render, and the name is new. And for now, I'll just leave it at this. And inside the new, I'll put an H1. And I'm not making the partials yet too, because this is just a simple example. So I'll do H1 reached. And let's see if this is working. And the reason that this happens all the time is because I refresh too quick and NodeMon has not restarted. In this case, it was closed, but this has happened before too, a couple of times in the video. And that was because NodeMon was restarting. And while talking, I forgot a thing that we need to put all these EJS files inside a directory. So inside the APIs, I'll do it from the GUI this time because I don't want to close the server. And I'll move the new.ejs inside this. And now if I refresh, I get reached, meaning my files are now connected. So in here, now let me make a list where I'll print the titles of all these inside the pass data, right? For that, I'll first pass in data, pass data. So now inside the EJS file, I have a variable named data which I can access, which has the same values as pass data here, right? So I'll do, first off, I'll put my EJS syntax. And what I'm aiming to do is I'm aiming to make a for loop on data, right? So I'll do data dot for each, and then I'll make this syntax here, item, right? So now we need another EJS tags. And just to remind you that we have not put anything there, we could have put equal to or this here, because this is actually an expression which will not return a value. This is just some logic, right? And everything we write of JavaScript is inside these EJS tags. That's why I've written everything inside these weird things, right? And now everything we write in between this line and this line will be inside the for each loop, and the item we can use, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a UL, and I'm going to move all of this. The shortcuts don't work here, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make an li for item. And now if I refresh, sorry, I did something weird there. What I need to do is I need to use EJS syntax, and I'll put an equal to because I'm getting a value back, and I'll write item, right? So I get object. Now what's the reason behind that? That inside this data we have a large number of objects, right? If you remember, all of them were different JSON objects that were inside an array. So what we need to print is item.title. And now if I refresh, I see I get a list of all the 100 titles put at once. So I hope you see how this can be really useful, right? In this case, we are printing titles. You could have done anything with this. You could have styled this properly, and even this web page would look really good. So you see how APIs can be used properly, and this is the kind of the way in which they will be used a lot of times. So this was just a simple example using the JSON placeholder, and yeah. So that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.